All right, welcome back to another episode of TNT. Sit tight, we'll be right back. Get your questions ready. Call in 855-95-BIBLE. So sit tight, we'll be right back. Welcome to Tanakh Talk. I'm your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode of the Twisted New Testament with Rabbi Stuart the Man Federow from the Big H, Houston, Texas. Welcome back. You know how it goes. Don't smoke crack.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's my logo. That's my new thing. Welcome back. Don't smoke crack.
Good to be back.
Good to be back. Welcome back. Good to be back. That's good too. Very good. All right. Well, good deal. So there's a lot of questions surfacing. A lot of them seem to be things that we have already been over more than just a couple times, but like lots and lots. And there's obviously many ways to spin things and to hit them from different angles. But the last few weeks we've been kind of having the phone lines open, and it's been kind of nice.
Well, that's because we need people to give us a single topic to cover, to talk about something that's not just a 2-second answer.
Yeah, yeah, like was Jesus the Messiah? No, next please.
Here, Alberto, how's that? Okay,
right,
this is for him.
Oh, we got chat going on? Okay,
Dominican Republic, wow, good for you. That's great. Thank you.
All right, so I guess I should probably log into the YouTube, to the
YouTube chat.
No, the what do you call it? The Ring Central. There it is. I couldn't find my desktop icon. There it is. All right. 855-952-4253 is the number you want to call. Number will be on screen in just a second here. And there we go. I rearranged these things too, so there we go. All right, numbers on your screen, 855-952-4253. Somebody is not going to be able to call in unless I say remind me later on the download. All right, there we go. Music stopped. Let me turn this back up. So when the caller calls in, we'll be able to hear him ring. Very good. So, man, I tell you what, I have experienced something this week that was not surprising, of course.
What was that?
Only mentioning it because I know people experience it all the time. I don't experience it very often, though. So I've got a lot of friends around here in town who are Christian, and they know where we stand. We know where they stand, and we're willing to
And
answer.
so what?
We're willing to answer their questions whenever.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on, let me catch this call. Let's take the caller. Caller, welcome to the show. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from.
This is Doug Grant. I'm calling from Federal Way, Washington.
Hello, welcome to the show. Thank you for calling.
Hi. I got a brother in Seattle.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hi.
Hey, I just called because I've been listening a while to all of the host guests you have on, and I just want to know what Tanakh or English version of the Tanakh in the Torah should I buy to read that's perfectly translated the way it should be.
There is no such thing because
that's not going to happen. Actually,
remember something. There's a Italian saying, "Traditori traditori," or "Traditori traditori." I can't remember which goes first, but what it means is that the translator is a traitor. In other words, every translation you look at is going to be one person or a group of people or a committee's opinion about how best to render into English the original Hebrew. Okay? And you're going to get a committee or a person's individual opinion, which may or may not be as accurate as another committee or individual's. And my suggestion, my very strong suggestion, is not to rely on any single English translation as, well, if you'll pardon the expression, the gospel truth.
Yeah, a total authoritative, right.
Totally authoritative. I am so funny. Okay. But rather get 2 or 3 or 4 different translations and then read each sentence one from one translation, one from another translation, one from another translation, until you and understand the sense of what each verse is trying to say without taking any one translation as the literal, this is what it means, everything else is wrong, and you'll get a better understanding that way, I think, of what the Hebrew is saying. Now, if you're going to ask me what translation do I use, okay, when push comes to shove, I probably left it in the car.
While you look, are you?
I'm sure I left it in the car.
Color, are you learning a little Hebrew? Are you kind of familiar with it a little bit?
I'm familiar with it, but really, I'm a really probably the novice of novices.
That's okay though. Are you still trying to
When it comes to
learn,
Hebrew.
or are you really kind of not really interested in learning? You just want to kind of read English, or what's your goal?
Well, I haven't really thought about it too much that way. I guess I'd want to try both, but for now, I just wanted to find something that didn't mistranslate into English what
Right.
it didn't really originally mean in the Hebrew, like I learned about Isaiah 9:6.
Right.
Right. Well,
Now,
let me go ahead.
No,
William.
no. You go ahead, please.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, so most of the translations that you will get, like from the JPS, Jewish Publication Society, or from Art Scroll, or places like that, will all the major ones, like Isaiah 7:14, Isaiah 53, will have the right translations on those specific words. But as far
No, they won't.
No, I mean everything I've ever seen with the whole thing about the virgin birth have always been the proper spelling and translation.
And I have seen Jewish translations where they may use the word Alma and translate it as young woman, but instead they'll say, they'll make it future tense, which the Hebrew is clearly not.
Right, but I mean, right.
I'm just
I see what you're saying.
too much of a perfectionist, I guess.
Right.
And there are Jewish translations which are so heavily influenced by the commentaries that the commentaries wind up getting into the translation, where it is as if they are saying that the translation includes the commentary on the Hebrew, when the commentary is a commentary. It's not it's understood to be talking about that, but it's not literally what it says.
Right.
So you just got to be very careful not to take any one translation as.
Now, when I was saying the major part meaning the virgin part, not the future tense or past tense, but the actual.
But
well, I mean, the thing about it is, I mean, for me, in fact, it wasn't even until like two or 3 years ago. Tanakh Talk's been around for 5 years. It wasn't until like 2 or 3 years ago that I even realized that there was a future past tense issue. So for me, it was enough for me to know that virgin was not the word. So when I say the major key words that are really important, pretty much every Jewish source that's actually Jewish, not Messianic, translates the major stuff correctly. So you can't, in other words, we can't say, Rabbi, for example, well, there aren't any, so don't buy one. Instead, like you said, it was a good thing. You know, if you can only afford one, then which one should he buy? If I was him, I would buy the Stone Edition transliteration, because then you can at least have the Hebrew there, and it'll tell you their translation, and you can cross-reference that Hebrew online. So if you were a rabbi, if you were to offer him one book that you think would probably get him going, which one would it be? Which translation would it be?
Okay, well, brace yourself, because you're really not going to like this one.
Let me guess. Let me guess. The Aramaic, English, New Testament. I'm just kidding.
No.
That was a joke. Okay.
Believe it or not, the one that I go to the most often, because I really get questions about the New Testament as often as I get questions about the Hebrew Scriptures from whoever happens to be in the group I'm talking to, I will be getting the Oxford Annotated.
That's cool.
Revised Standard Version, not the newly revised standard version, but the Oxford Annotated Revised Standard Version. Let me explain what I'm talking about.
Okay. Hey, real quickly, before you do, caller, since we're right on your trail of exactly what you're asking, let's go ahead and hang up. I've actually had a few calls I went ahead and rejected because we were keeping you online. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect with you now, tune in for your answer, and we're going to go ahead and answer this next call and put them on hold, okay?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, caller C, hold on. caller, sit tight. We'll be with you in just a second. Do not hang up, okay?
Okay. All right.
All right, Rabbi, go ahead.
All right. Again, you're not going to like this because it's not your typical answer.
That's all right.
And I have a very intent. I have my own agenda when I use a biblical translation. First of all, I get, as I said, when I'm speaking to an audience, there are people, Jews and non-Jews, who are going to ask me questions about the New Testament. So I have to have in my hand, a Christian New Testament as well as the actual Bible.
I do the same thing.
Okay, but
Right.
I choose the Oxford Annotated Revised Standard Version for the following reason. Okay, first of all, Oxford University in England has the commentary at the very, very, very bottom of each page. Okay, and the introductory to each book or whatever, each book of the Bible. And it's going to give you a good historical sense and a good understanding, even if it disagrees with Christianity, by the way, of what the text above is all about. And that's true regardless of what translation any Oxford Annotated Bible uses. And the reason why I use the RSV, the Revised Standard Version, is because not always, not as often as I'd prefer, but at least sometimes the translators were honest enough that in the notes, not the commentary by the Oxford University, okay, but right immediately, and I wish I had the text to show you, but it's probably in the car or in my office, okay, but underneath the text of, let's say you're reading along and there's a little E, okay, next to an English word in the actual translation of the Revised Standard Version.
Right.
You go down the page, still in the upper section, which is the translation, and you'll see the same little E, and then right next to it, it'll say something. Basically, it'll be honest enough to tell you where they got the translation from, because they are not taking the translation from the original Hebrew.
Oh, nice.
Let me finish this. They are preferring to use the translation based on the Syriac, Septuagint, Targum, whatever, and it's noted, but then it will say, but the actual Hebrew reads whatever the actual Hebrew reads.
Right.
So not all the time, not every time, not as often as I wish, but at least sometimes they're honest enough to tell you that they're not basing their English translation on the actual original Hebrew. They're basing the translation that they're giving you off of a translation into another language, then into English. Like when you go to Isaiah 7:14 and see the word virgin there, it'll say, we're taking this from the Septuagint, but the actual Hebrew reads young woman or something like that.
Right.
Okay, that may not be the best example. And the reason why, and I know this is my own agenda, the Revised Standard Version is a Christian translation.
Right.
Revised Standard Version is not a Jewish translation. So if I'm countering a missionary, if I am quoting to not even a missionary, just a Christian, okay, they can't say to me, oh, well, of course a Jewish translation would say that, but you're warping the translation. No, this is your Christian community, scholars, okay, who are saying that this is what the translation says. So I'm using a Christian translation to use it to explain to Christians what the text actually says. Now, other people have different motivations. They want a Jewish translation, like you were talking about, like with Stone or the Art Scroll series or this kind of thing, and they're going to have a Jewish commentary. Okay, not Oxford, but they're going to collect Jewish translations, to go Jewish interpretations and commentaries to go with the notes underneath the translation. Okay, but that's a different need. I have a very specific need of what translation I use because, as I said, I have to have the New Testament a lot of times, and I want a Christian translation so they can't tell me, oh, well, you Jews are perverting it. Okay. And when I show them, and there's a great example, and I wish I could just, show it up to the camera. but it's on Isaiah 53. Isaiah 52, okay, verse, I think it's 14. Where'd you go? Isaiah 52. Wait a minute. Isaiah 52. Yes, exactly. Isaiah 52, verse 14, which is part of the Isaiah 53 passage. It just begins earlier. Okay, most people start with Isaiah 52:13. Behold, my servant shall deal prudently, shall be exalted and extolled and very, very high. And then the Hebrew text reads, many were astonished at you. But the translation that a lot of Christian translations use, it'll say, many were astonished at him. So if you go down on the Revised Standard Version, it'll say, many were astonished at him, and then there'll be a little letter, and then you go down, it'll say, well, this is based on the Septuagint, but the actual Hebrew says you. Well, no, wait a minute. If Isaiah, who is Isaiah preaching to? He was preaching to the Jews. So if he says, many were astonished at you, in referencing this servant, from the very beginning, Isaiah is telling the people that the servant described in Isaiah 52:53 is the people themselves. So by showing them the Christian translation of the Revised Standard Version, okay, which I think is Anglican, but I'm not sure who's responsible for it. Could be Catholic. I don't remember who is. Okay, but they're at least honest enough to tell you that for Isaiah 52:14, it says, as many were astonished at you, but they changed it to as many were astonished at him because they're preferring to go by the Septuagint or the Syriac or the Targum or whatever it is. But it's their translation. It's a Christian translation. And you can go, see, even in your Christian translation, and if you go to the Oxford the Oxford University notes at the bottom of the page for Isaiah 53, it specifically says, Isaiah is speaking about the people of Israel. So I find it extremely useful.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I mean,
but that's because I have my agenda and have certain needs for what translation I use, especially if it's in a single text, because that's what people ask me about. So that's what I need.
Right. So I wasn't actually opposing your thought at all. I was actually in full agreement with it.
Well, you can oppose it.
No, I'm just saying,
a conversation between you and me.
Yeah, no. I mean, earlier when you said, "Hang on, let you finish," I wasn't actually arguing with you.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to finish because I would forget what I wanted to say.
Okay, no worries at all. Okay, so all right, so we'll go and move on to this next color. Well, where the heck is my mouse at? I got 6 screens.
Use mine.
I got 6 screens, and the mouse, sometimes the cursor is like on the wrong screen. I'm thinking it's on another screen. All right, caller, welcome to the show. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from.
Hi, it's Sadiq from San Diego.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Yeah, how you doing? All right. I had a question. A lot of times Christians will say, like, if you say to the Christian that how is it that there are all these the way the Torah was given, there are all these laws in the Torah, and then how can you say that that's all been canceled and now the New Testament's come along and everything is completely changed? And they will answer you, well, it's something called progressive revelation, that God had a certain plan and then he changed his plan, and now it's different. So we usually answer that that's horse hockey or whatever. It's BS. You can't have progressive revelation. God is going to tell you what he wants from the beginning. But I was thinking, don't Jews also believe in progressive revelation, because they had the time period before the Torah was given when it was like kind of a different system. What God spoke to Noah, Adam, Abraham were all different than what he said to Moses. So don't we also have progressive revelation?
You might be able to say, I guess, sort of in a way, kind of. Because what the God's revelation of religion, to Adam wasn't the same thing as to Noah. But then again, neither of them represent Judaism. The first Jew is supposed to be Abraham. But the funny thing about progressive revelation is that if they want to say, well, the Christianity was the revelation that progressed, okay, that Judaism
Real quick,
flowed
I'm gonna
into
hang.
Christ.
Real quick, I'm gonna hang up. Let's free the phone lines up. So sit tight with your answer, okay? Rabbi, go ahead.
Okay, so if the Christians are going to say that revelation progressed from Judaism to Christianity, what is wrong with saying to them, well, then you must therefore think that the Mormons are actual Christianity, because who's to say it stopped with with the Christians' understanding of what Christianity is? In other words, you could say, well, it progressed from Judaism to Catholicism to Protestantism to Mormonism. Or you could say it went from Judaism to Christianity to Islam. Maybe the Quran is the revelation that progressed, okay, after Christianity. In other words, they want to say that their Christianity is the successor to Judaism, but as soon as they allow for that, then you also have to allow for everything that came after Christianity to be a successor for Christianity. You know, they can't have it both ways. They can't say, oh, well, you know, Judaism became Christianity and then God stopped the progression. That's how I respond to it. That's what I say, you know, when they try that progressive revelation stuff. But remember something, you know, everything you have after Abraham is all Judaism. It's within Judaism. Nobody's going to come along and say, yes, I believe that, you know, there's only one God in the universe and this stapler is God. Now bow down to it, because every single person in the Tanakh, okay, knew what God was and said God is God. And the stapler is God.
Right.
Okay. In other words, the revelation that was in Judaism that you could call progressive Judaism stayed within Judaism and didn't contradict itself. It didn't have different stories for the same thing that contradict itself. It was all within the context of Judaism. You know, God made a covenant with Abraham. Every covenant that God makes with the Jews is a reaffirmation. Okay, what's the word? A reaffirmation of the covenants that God made before it. The covenant with Isaac didn't replace the covenant that was made with Abraham. The covenant with Jacob did not replace the covenants made with Isaac or Abraham. The covenant God made with Noah, you know, didn't negate, replace, deny, renounce, denounce the covenant God had made with Jacob, Isaac, and Abraham. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But if you accept the Christian covenant, okay, Christianity, which contradicts Judaism, the Hebrew scriptures in so many different ways, okay, that you can't, it's not reaffirming, it's actually denying the most basic elements of what that covenant entails. So I hope that helps.
Okay.
But that's how I handle it when they start talking about progressive revelation.
Right.
Yeah, it progressed right to Islam, or it progressed right to Mormonism. They'll love that.
All right, very good. So we're going to take the next caller. This is Brock. Brock, welcome back, man, from Missouri.
Hi, Brock.
Hey, how's it going?
What do you know?
Thank God.
I have this friend who's constantly coming over asking me about Judaism because they seem to be curious, but no matter what answer I give them, they keep wanting to go back to, but Jesus was a Jew and he was born of David. And I keep trying to say, well, he had no father, and they keep trying to insist, no matter what, that it's through the mother.
Right.
No matter how many times I try telling them, that's not how it works, that your tribe comes through your dad and only your Judaism comes through your mother.
Okay. Let me tell you the analogies that I use. Okay. First of all, you have to look at Numbers chapter 1. Numbers is where they're numbering the people of Israel. Numbers is where they're giving the numbers. They're giving the lineage, the ancestry, right? So in the book of Numbers chapter 1, at least 2 or 3 times in the first chapter, it explicitly says that lineage is traced through the father, to the house of the father, the father's house. Okay. Let's see. Numbers 1. Take you the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel after their families by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls. Okay. Let's see. Numbers chapter 1, verse 4. And with you there shall be a man of every tribe, everyone head of the house of his fathers. And then it starts listing lineages, and it's son of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so. It's all son of, son of, son of. By the way, second point you may want to make is, then how come the women are all missing from the Christians' New Testament lineages of Matthew and Luke, Matthew 1, Luke 3, okay? Because if a woman is named, it's only because she was famous, but the lineage still went through that woman's husband, not through her. So even the New Testament is a testimony, pardon the expression, it's a testimony to the fact that, lineage, genealogy is only traced to the fathers. Okay, second thing that's important to understand, and here's the analogies that I always give, and it really explains things I personally think quite well. Arthur is born in the United States, his mother's born in the United States, his father's born in the United States. Arthur loves the United States, but for his job, he has to move to Australia. So Arthur in Australia still is active in politics in the United States. He votes in every election in the United States. He writes letters to his Congress people. He promotes the ideas of democracy. He's really, hooray for the United States. Even though Arthur is living in Australia, is Arthur still a U.S. citizen? Yes, he is. Bert is born in the United States. His mother's born in the United States. His father's born in the United States. Bert couldn't care less about politics, couldn't tell you who the president is. Okay, July 4th comes and goes, and he doesn't even realize the significance of it. He has to move for his job to Brazil, so Bert in Brazil is totally democracy in the United States, and all that is irrelevant to him. As long as Bert in Brazil has his beer and his television set and his paycheck, he's happy. Is Bert still a U.S. citizen? Yes, he is. Okay, now we go to Charles. Charles is born in the United States. His mother's born in the United States. His father's born in the United States. Charles hates and despises anything and everything that has anything whatsoever to do with the United States. He moves to China. Charles now lives in China. And every July 4th, he puts on sackcloth and ashes. He goes into mourning for the invention of the United States of America. Okay, the fourth Thursday of November comes along, and it means nothing to him. Okay, Charles in China is still a U.S. citizen. And what does Arthur, Bert, or Charles have to do in order to lose their U.S. citizenship? And the answer is they have to become a citizen of a country with whom the United States doesn't allow dual citizenship. But more importantly, now let's talk about David. David is born in the United States, but David's father is born in Dubai, and David's mother is born in Denmark. David has three choices of his citizenship when he becomes, I think it's 17 in the United States, I'm not sure. He can choose U.S. citizenship because he was born here. He can choose Denmark citizenship because his father was born there. His mother was born there. And he can choose Dubai citizenship because his father was born there. What gives him the right to make these choices? Because he inherits the right of citizenship through his parents. He inherits the right of citizenship through his parents. Judaism says that right is only inherited through the mother. Okay, to inherit the right, okay, through the mother. I think I worded this funny. It's because I'm so sleepy. Okay, inheritance rights is through the father. I did word it badly. I'm sorry. I apologize. We have to go back. Citizenship rights are through the mother only in Judaism. Inheritance rights become through the father. What do you inherit from your father? You inherit property. You inherit tribal affiliation, as we showed you in Numbers chapter 1. Okay, but the mother grants you citizenship rights. Why? The usual story. Okay, women get raped. You don't know who the mother. You know who the mother is. You don't know who the father is. Okay, even if they're not raped, the father goes away to war. You still know who the mother is because she's the one who's taking care of the kid. So, as an act of leniency, Judaism says, and this, by the way, goes all the way back. It's nonsense to say this was changed, and there's proof for that, but we're not doing that now. The point is that citizenship rights you inherit only through your mother, whereas inheritance rights you inherit through your father. Okay, and it's that simple. This is how Judaism looks at it. This is how the New Testament looks at it, because that's what they say according to the lineage of Jesus. Matthew is so-and-so is the father of so-and-so, the father of so-and-so, the father and so-and-so. And Luke is so-and-so is the son of so-and-so, the son of so. One goes up, one goes down in the lineage, in the tree, the family tree or whatever you want to call it. One goes up, one goes down. And if they mention a woman, she's only mentioned because she's famous, but the lineage still goes through her husband, not through her. So that's how I explain it, is by an analogy. I had a professor of mine who used to say, if you can turn it into an analogy that they can understand from their personal perspective, they'll understand your point better.
How's that, Brock? Good enough, man?
Sounds good to me.
All right, brother.
All right, it's a long explanation.
Really appreciate your call, bro.
Okay, it's a long explanation, and they're not gonna want to go along with anything because they want to keep Jesus as their Messiah. But the truth of the matter is, two lineages, Matthew and Luke. Luke, let's say that Luke is the mother's lineage, Mary's lineage. Okay, Luke goes through the half brother of Solomon, who's called Nathan. But the biblical text repeatedly says that you got to be the ruler over Judah, okay, Jewish king. You got to be through Solomon, okay. But the Luke genealogy goes through Solomon's half brother Nathan. Read it, Luke chapter 3. It's in there. And then both Matthew and Luke talk about Joseph being the descendant of Shealtiel, who was the grandson of Jehoiakim, whose lineage was cursed. And Jeremiah says that they can never sit on the throne of King David and rule over Judah again, which the real Messiah will do. Okay, and people say, oh, but what about Zerubbabel? What about Zerubbabel, or however they pronounce it? What about Zerubbabel? Okay, but he was only made governor. The biblical text keeps calling him governor. It doesn't call him king. The last time that you had an absolute sovereign ruler over the promised land was me and names with a Z. Can't think of his name. With 586 BCE, the last one to sit on the throne. Okay, we haven't had a king to sit on that. You had everybody else had to. William, what's it called when the country has to pay a tributary? They pay tribute to the bigger country, and they're under the thumb of that bigger country. Even when Persia allowed the Jews to go back to reestablish the temple, 70 years after the destruction of the temple, it didn't mean they got their independence from Persia and they were now going to compete with Persia. They still had to pay tribute and still were under the thumb of Cyrus and the Persian emperors. So they say that Zerubbabel was a governor. He was not an absolute monarch. He wasn't the sovereign ruler of the nation. So, anyway, I hope that helps.
Awesome. Thank you, Brock. Appreciate your call, brother. Okay, so next up, Bill Smiley asks, when did the concept of the Messiah originate?
Good question. There are plenty of passages in the Hebrew Scriptures. Let me rephrase that. Let's start over again. Nowhere in the Hebrew Scriptures does it say, when the Messiah comes, this is what he's going to do, and this is how you will know him. Okay? Every single verse that we look at and we claim that it's a prophecy of the coming of the Messiah usually doesn't even use the word Messiah. Anointed. Okay? And on that day, bingo, and I didn't bring something to drink. And on that day, something great and wonderful will happen. We interpret it to mean that that's referring to when the Messiah comes. On that day means when the Messiah comes. But it doesn't explicitly say, when the Messiah comes. So, how did the concept develop? The text was there. Look, you can't read Isaiah 11, okay? You can't read Isaiah 11. Where'd you go? Isaiah 11. There shall come forth, there shall come, therefore this is future tense, a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. Who is Jesse? The father of King David. Well, who is the stem of Jesse? Is King David, and a branch that grows out of the stem is the Messiah. And look at what it says. Spirit of God will rest upon him. He'll be wise. He'll be understanding. He'll give counsel and he'll might, and a spirit of knowledge and the fear of God. Let's see. This shall make him a quick understanding in the respect for God. He won't be judging on his eyes, okay, because that can include prejudice, or reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness he judges and reproves with equity. Okay, with righteousness, let's see. The wolf will lie down with the lamb, leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And the cow and the bear shall feed. You can't read this and not understand that this is the days of the Messiah, the utopia that we look forward to.
Right.
So it really isn't much of a leap to say this is, look, when bad things happen, you've got a choice. You can give up and you can say, the world is lousy and we're all sinners. Thing I hear from Christians, it's a broken world. I'm a broken person. Broken. Or you can take a look at the past, see how wonderful it was, and hope for the same thing in the future, and create, for example, a concept of the coming of the Messiah. And you've got all these verses that just, it's so clear. The wolf will lie down with the lamb, the leopard will lie down with the kid, and the calf and young lion and fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. Okay, the sucking child shall play on the hole of an asp, like Cleopatra's asp, very poisonous snake, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice's den, which means another poisonous snake. In other words, no death. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the eternal as the waters cover the sea. And in that day, what day? Days of the Messiah.
Right.
Chapter 11, verse 10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it the Gentiles shall seek, and his rest shall be glorious. So it's easy. It's not that hard. It's kind of simple. Or no, what's the word? Peshat.
Yeah.
Literal, or the obvious meaning of the text is this wonderful, great time that hasn't happened yet. So the Jews look to the future to reestablish King David's dynasty, okay, and create this wonderful world that used to be under King David.
Right. All right, let's move on to this next caller. Caller, welcome to the show. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, my name's Alberto. I'm calling from Massachusetts.
Roberto, welcome.
Camden, Massachusetts.
Welcome to the show.
Hey. Thank you.
You bet.
Good. I've actually, thank you so much for all the work you guys do. You guys actually have been the reason why I was able to get out of Christianity.
Oh, Baruch Hashem.
So I'm very grateful for all the effort and the time you put into, giving us the truth, and just opening up, the Bible and all the lies that we're fed. So thank you very much for that. But
our pleasure. And as I always say,
this,
any way we can help, or any way we can help confuse you even more. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. So my problem is this: is that as a Christian, you pray and you're praying, not really to Jesus, but through Jesus. But you think you have a relationship with God, and then you realize that it's essentially it's a house of lies, right?
Right.
And that really hits you, because it's like, where are you? Who are you praying to? What's real? So it's kind of like the what now? Who am I praying to when I pray? How does that even work? I'm not a Jew, so how do I actually have a relationship with God then? What's the basis of it, and what's my next step, essentially?
Okay. All right. We'll go disconnect and just listen for your answer. Okay.
Well, wait. I may have
thank
some
you.
questions.
Okay. Don't hang up yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, first of all, you already have a relationship with God, even though you may or may not know that you've got one. Okay. My personal theology is that God knows each one of us, and when we pray, we are praying to a God who knows Stuart Federow, who knows you, who knows William, knows all the people, anybody who prays to God. Second thing is that Judaism's view is that our God is not so petty and small that in order to be heard by God, you have to use the right name, okay, or you have to have the right God in your mind when you're thinking. God is merciful and compassionate and forgiving, and God is generous and isn't petty and small that you have to use the right name. So there are plenty of people across the globe, Jews and non-Jews alike, who get their prayers answered by God. And God isn't such an egomaniac that you got to give the credit to the right God. He just gives people what they need. Second thing, or third, I don't know what number I'm on. Third thing, okay, you already in a relationship with God, even if you don't realize it. Okay, even if you think the God you're relating to is Jesus. Okay, certainly there are things in your life, and this is a question, where you prayed that it would happen and it happened, or you prayed that you would get it and you got it, or you prayed that you would get rid of it and you got rid of it. Okay, is that a reasonable assumption?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay, so
Yep.
God is already in your life, whether you acknowledge God or not. God isn't that, I don't know what, small, petty, whatever. Okay. Also, my personal preference, because this is how I look at things, is I think you really ought to consider conversion to Judaism fully and get away from your Christianity. But you know your situation better than I do. You know what your belief system is and what it encompasses, what it entails. Do you pray every day?
Well, lately, so because of that whole thing, it kind of really threw me for a loop. So I decided, you know what? Because it's kind of like, you're gonna kiss your mother with that mouth type of thing. It's like so I wasn't in Christianity for too long, but I was really into the Bible. That's actually why I was able to get out, because I read every day. But
okay, well let me explain.
Once that hit me,
let me explain some other things too that I think need to be talked about. Okay. You know how on Facebook you get these messages or whatever to go read this or buy that or investigate this or whatever? And one of the things came up on my screen that was a Christian lecture series on how to pray. On how to pray. And there were 3 lectures that it was offering. One was how to pray for health, how to pray for wealth, how to pray for, I forgot what the other one was. Okay, I can't remember exactly, but it was how to pray for something. Okay. And I got to tell you something. That's not how Judaism looks at the function and purpose of prayer. That's not what God is for. God isn't the Santa Claus that if you write to Santa Claus, in November, he's going to bring you what you want in December. Okay, that's not Judaism's view of what prayer is and how prayer operates in our lives. Okay, Judaism isn't where we ask God for things. Judaism is where we have a conversation with ourselves to see if what we are doing, thinking, believing, playing, acting, hoping, whatever, is in alignment with what God wants.
Exactly.
When Jews, yes. Wait, let me back up a step. Yes, there's a part of prayer that includes what is called petitionary prayer. I'm not saying that we don't petition God for things. That's not my point. But by and large, the thrust of Jewish prayer is to change me, to make myself a better person, and is what I'm doing in line with what God is asking of me. Okay, there's an old prayer book that had a line in it that I love, and I haven't seen it in a long, long time, but it said, the person who rises from prayer a better person, that's the person whose prayers have been answered. Words to that effect. Okay. Judaism is an Eastern religion, not a Western religion. They don't call it the Middle West. They call it the Middle East. And when you think of Eastern religions, you think of meditation. And the Jewish service is to put you in a meditative state, transcending time and space, which is much, much, much more Eastern way of looking at prayer and its function than the Western, really Christian way of doing things. Which is why this Christian guy is putting out these 3 lectures on how to ask God for this, how to ask God for that, how to ask God for a third thing. Judaism's prayer, yes, it includes petitionary prayer, but it's more to put you in a meditative state where you transcend time and space, and you get to concentrate heavily on thoughts. There's only one line in the entire service that a person is supposed to be really concentrating and really deeply understanding the meaning of it while they say it, and that's the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the eternal is our God, the eternal is one. Hey, everybody, listen up. There's only one God in the universe, and that's the God we Jews believe in. Okay? Everything else, okay, is like a mantra. That's a really weird term for me to be using, but it's to enable have you ever been driving down the street and all of a sudden 2, 3, 4 miles go by, you have no idea what happened? Your eyes are still watching the road, you're still staying in your lane, your body is doing what it has to do to drive the car, but your mind is so heavily concentrated on something else, both time and space has been transcended. You have moved 2, 3, 4 miles down the road, space has been transcended, and time, because it happens like this, just all of a sudden you see what I'm saying? You know the experience I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I do. It's a little scary, but
that is more of what Jewish prayer is all about, rather than, hey, God, gimme, now.
Yeah, no, that's what I try to avoid, actually, because it's one of those things like, what are you asking? Like, why are you praying? Are you doing what you want or what God wants for you? Because if what you're asking yourself,
you're supposed to be asking yourself, is what I am doing aligned with the will of God? By the way, you're not giving up your will. You are aligning your will with the will of God. Okay,
exactly. Which is,
by the way, is another big difference, I think, from Christianity, where it's, let God let go. No, you're still responsible, but you're aligning your behavior, your actions, your will, your strength, your power, your knowledge, your intelligence, everything with what God wants. There are lines in the earliest part of the service in the morning which says, praised are you, O eternal our God, who gives clothing to the naked. Really? Clothing comes down from the sky and just lands right in front of somebody who needs it? No. We are partners with God in a never-ending act of creation that makes the world a better place, because we are responsible for handing to the person who needs the clothing. Therefore, we become like the hands of God. Okay? They used to steal Jews away and then ransom them back to the Jewish community. Praised are you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who frees the captive. Oh, so the jail just opens wide open? That's a New Testament myth. That's a New Testament story. Okay? We have to do what we can to redeem the oppressed. We have to do what we can. We are partners with God in the never-ending act of creation. Every day is new. Okay? And the Jewish prayer is supposed to make us think about what we're doing. And if we're not, then to help us align our will with the will of God and our behavior with what God wants from us. And I got to tell you something, with that kind of attitude, I think the world's, there's no limit to what you can get accomplished. You're aligning your will with God, and God, when you have your will aligned with God's will, is going to do what God can to help you get something done. I heard something brilliant. Well, I think it's brilliant. Okay, that when a person prays to God, God gives them 4 answers. one of four answers is maybe a combination of those four answers. The first answer is yes. The second answer is no, but the most often answer is not yet. And the fourth answer is, that's a good idea, but I have a better idea for you. So, where you are now, I didn't ask you enough questions. Okay. I didn't, ask you what you're doing presently, where your belief system is, this kind of thing. I personally wish you would consider full conversion to Judaism and abandon the, idolatry of Christianity. But that's not everybody would make that statement as boldly as I do. But whatever you're doing, you got to realize that God already knows you. God's been taking care of you up to this point. I don't think God abandons you. Okay, now you just got to figure out what God wants and align your will with the will of God, and go from there, and realize that the purpose and function of prayer is to change you, not to change God. Right. The definition of in religious studies, the formal study of religion. Do you know what the definition of magic is? It's forcing the will of the gods or nature to do your will by invoking the right invocation, benediction, abracadabra, that's a stereotypical magical word, but what does it really mean? It means if I invoke the right word, abracadabra, then the gods or nature, the gods of nature or whatever has to do my will because I said the secret magic word. Judaism isn't magic. Judaism isn't controlling God. It's to allow us through this meditative state to control ourselves. At least that's how I see it. Other rabbis may disagree, but that's how I look at it.
Right. Well, I hope that answered your question. I really appreciate the call.
I hope it answers your question.
Yeah.
If I knew more about you and I could ask more questions of you, I may be able to help you. Try to help a little bit better.
All right. Well, thank you for your call. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Well, Rabbi, it's rolling an hour right now. So we'll probably go ahead and wrap this thing up for tonight. And so all you people out there, thank you for tuning in. Feel free to send us a message if you have any ideas for next week's topic. That would be
please.
Cool.
That would help a lot.
Log out. And
everybody gets bored when we only answer questions of what people call in about or whatever.
Yeah, right.
They had an idea to spend some real time on it.
Right. Something, a little preparation date. So, yeah, so that'd be cool. So that's pretty much it for tonight. So thank you for all tuning in. Same time, same place next week, Hashem willing. And if you guys want to assist with the monthly expenses, please let us know. Send me an email. Actually, just reach out to the website, tanaktalk.com, and scroll to the bottom of the page. You'll see a little donate button at the bottom. I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, please donate, because look at the equipment you can see on the screen right now. You got fancy microphones and fancy screens, and you don't see the fancy computers and the building that he's building and everything else. Give.
Hey, I did find out some good news on the building.
Good.
Even though we owe, if we finish the payout through the term, it was set up on 5 years. If we finish the payout, it'll be $21,000. But if we paid cash, it would be $9,000.
Wow.
So that's a big difference. So
that's a huge difference.
So when big chunks come in, we can throw it right there to the building fund and chip this thing down much faster. So
Andrea, we got real lucky. The floods in Houston did not affect us directly.
Yeah, and same here as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, we do not have time to answer any more questions. So
yes, dear. Sorry, I just saw that.
So anyway, you people out there, like first name, last name, thank you, but please be patient. Callers take precedence. So if you want your question to be answered for sure, then make sure you find a way to call in. That's the only thing I can tell you. So anyway, that's pretty much it. So appreciate everybody, and thank you, Andrea and Sadiq out there. By the way, Sadiq, I'm not really sure why you was hearing an echo. It could be because I've got a room speaker on. Not really sure. So, but anyway. All right, so Rabbi, thanks again. You're an awesome dude, and we'll see you next week, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, shalom. Take care, everybody. Peace.
חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד. איפוק זו העוצמה, ויתור זו הגדולה, השאיפה והכמיהה. אני אתה אתם תמיד תמיד כולם ביחד. חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד. איפוק זו העוצמה, ויתור זו הגדולה, השאיפה